I'm going to start off first pretty simple. If you've got a website, put your hand up. That's probably a really great place to start. Right, if you're getting over 1,000 uniques a month, leave your hand up, sorry, put your hand back up. If you're getting over 1,000 uniques a month, leave it up. Yep. How about over 4,000 a month? Still up? Is there anyone here that actually has over 5,000 uniques a month? Over 10? Yep. Over 20? Alright. If you, over there I think you said you had over 20,000 uniques a month. If you lost half of that tomorrow, how would it affect you? You'd have to sack people. That's the harsh reality. On the weekend, and I'll just tell another quick story here. I went to watch John Wayne Parr's final fight, Muay Thai kickboxing. 4-ounce gloves, elbows allowed, knees allowed, in an octagon. Harsh reality is, doesn't matter what gloves you're wearing, if you get hit by an elbow, you're down for the count. That's what it's like with Google, except it'd be like me getting in a ring with John Wayne Parr, and I don't know how to fight. Well, maybe not me, because in this situation, relating to SEO, but it'd be like someone who didn't know SEO getting in the ring with Google. And if they hit you hard enough, you will go down, right? And sometimes you'll stay down for a very long time. And if you don't know how to get out, then the fight's over, right? But one thing I noticed was that some of these guys have done 50 or 60 fights, right? And they might have lost 12 fights, but they've won the rest. And the difference was how many they won, so how many times they kept on getting back up for it. It's very much like that with SEO. If you're trying to manage it yourself, then you need someone experienced, right, to manage it for you, because you want to make sure you keep coming back up to win it at the end of the day. Buckminster Fuller, one of my favourites. A equals A. You can never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change it, you need to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete, right? You can't change a penalty straight away, right? It is as it is. I see a lot of people, they get frustrated for it. If they have to go and change the business model by firing people, you know, it can be very frustrating, but it is what it is, and you just need to move on and move into the next stage of managing that penalty. Black hat or white hat, right? At this point, I'm going to make an assumption here that is you've decided to go down and work this penalty out, right? And we'll get in how you decide that. It doesn't actually matter, because it's irrelevant to what you need to do. It doesn't matter what's happened to you previously. It doesn't matter who you've worked with. It doesn't matter in this circumstance at all, because at the end of the day, you just need to work out what you need to move forward. Links themselves are not bad, right? There is no such thing as a bad. A link is an inanimate object, has no feelings. There is simply low quality and you know, spammy versus high quality, and typically on a scale of how hard it is to get, and also how much resource it's going to cost you to get it. Again, the assumption is that you want to go through it, you have been penalised in some way by links or any other method you can use this for. I'm defining a penalty in this point because you can do an entire session around penalties. It can be quite large, but for this point, the rapid simultaneous drop for majority of search terms without recovery, and they can be both manual or automatic. These are pretty clear examples here of what I would consider a penalty, because it is a rapid drop. Here is recent. We're talking April 24th, Penguin. Right? You have a drop and they came through and for you. They're very clear. And then you've got things like this. Is it a penalty, or have you been devalued on some of your links? Right? It's sometimes harder to tell. This is cyclic. Obviously, you've got weekends, so you've got more traffic during the week and not so much on the weekend. Right? This particular top one at the top, it has been penalised, but you wouldn't tell it. They're actually making more sales, but you can tell it by seeing their search engine rankings change more than anything. This bottom one here, link devalued, right? Because their major phrases have all stayed there. Some of the phrases have dropped, but they haven't completely moved into obliteration. Now, Google's very good at spreading confusion. Again, another comment. The whole secret lies in confusing the enemy so that he cannot fathom our real intent. If we look at the latest update from Google, right, they put out a whole lot of manual warnings about unnatural links to your website. 700,000 warnings or so. That was on March 22nd. Approximately 4 weeks before they came out with Penguin, which was April 24th. Yeah. Now, if you got one of those manual link warnings, or if you got one of those unnatural link warnings, it's been defined or considered a manual penalty, where Google has gone and said, you're penalised, it's manual action. Right? There is typically no way out from that other than to either wait your time in jail or be down for the count, right? In which they will expire after some point mostly, right? Or go through a reconsideration request. Now, Penguin was considered to be algorithmic, which should say if you make changes to your site, you'll come out of it. But what happens if you combine an unnatural link warning, where you don't get the drop straight away, but you get the drop around April 22nd, with something that's algorithmic? Now you have a whole lot of confusion in there, which is what Google's aim to do actually is, because they don't want people to know what their actual algorithm is, which just clouds the entire thing. And typically they go around very similar types of things, so link quality or content, things that you can consider to be very similar in nature. So when should you act? This becomes a definition of actually what's important for you. If you don't need the domain, move on, build a new domain. It'll be much quicker. If you're getting over 20,000 uniques, maybe getting even more. I've seen people lose a million uniques a month. The traffic completely halved. Obviously you want to work with that. You can wait for algorithm tweaks. Typically I say a good time is about 4 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. I wouldn't wait any longer than that if it's critical to you. If it's completely critical, you move straight away because you don't want to be letting people go. And should you submit a re-inclusion request? That kind of ties back into the other two. If it's important to you, absolutely. If it's a branded website and it carries your brand, then yes, absolutely. This is an older process of ours that we would go through. It has evolved somewhat. Some of those Google just don't like to give you, like asking them for link examples. They will give you some. Right? There's a couple of important lessons in this. Right? This is a process that I'll go through now in rough steps for you. Now, depending on how technical you are or how non-technical, you may have already got something from this, otherwise hopefully you get a bit more out of this. Step one is to communicate with them. And the assumption here is that you're doing a re-inclusion request at this point. And a re-inclusion request is like saying, hey, Google, sorry, I know that you've gotten rid of all my rankings now, I've lost my traffic, so I'm coming to you kind of, on my knees, and can you let me back in, please? That's effectively what it is. The reason you want to initiate the conversation right up front is because if you go through and do what we're about to go through in the next couple of steps first, and you remove some of those poor quality links that Dan pointed out earlier in the very first session, and then you come to Google and initiate a conversation second to it, they're still going to come back anyway regardless. Even if you've already done the effort, you've already gone, you've removed as much as you can, they're still going to come back and still say, these links here, we think they're unnatural, go and do something about it. You might have done 3 weeks, you might have done 3 months worth of work. Doesn't matter, they'll still say the same thing unless you've gotten rid of every single one of those links that are considered an unnatural link. And understand at this point that the data is not backed by intelligence. Right? The data that they get is not intelligent data at the person that's dealing with the re-inclusion request. The reason I can say this is through the replies that come through. A classic example, and I read very critically into what I get back from Google when managing one of these. They told me I had to, for this particular site, that I should remove this type of link. And I thought that's a bit unusual. I've actually already been through that particular site for a client, and I've cleaned up the pages that I felt were thin on content for them. And instead of 301 redirecting the pages, I decided that they were low quality. I'll just leave them to 404. Right? That's telling Google that this page is really bad. I don't want to get any value, or I don't want you to think I'm getting any value by 301 redirecting it. So I'm just going to drop it from your index. Now, they shouldn't actually ever count that page. Any link going to that page, they should never count for you. So even if you had bad links going to it, it shouldn't count your site. And yet this person come back from Google and said, remove it. So I said, look, I want to clarify with you. My impression was, if I don't 301 it, it's 404, you'll just discount this link automatically. They went away and they came back and said, look, I've clarified that. Yes, you're right. That's what happens. You don't need to do anything about it. And that key point there was that Google's algorithm is highly intelligent. At this point here, they're labeling what they decide as unnatural links, which is pretty much any link that contains anchor text to your website once you've crossed over a threshold. They're not SEO people looking at your site there. So you have to treat it from that perspective. Analysing the current link profile. Right, this is step 2. And I define those priorities based on weakness of your profile, or strength, depending on how you want to look at it. The quality of the domain linking in, the percentage of anchor text variation, and the percentage of deep links, and every combination in between. You could have really high authority domains all coming into your main domain with all the same anchor text, right? And you might be picked up. I'm not saying you will. I mean, Adobe is a great example of being picked up, and not having a problem. But it's a flag that you could look at. In doing this process, and I'll go over the tools at the end, you'll also come across things where someone might have been using your site as a parasite host. They might be using your forum. You can see here we picked up, there's a nice really big Russian keyword there. Not sure if it's Russian, might not be. Some other interesting phrases like dating Indian women and preteen chat rooms, Java. Not the kind of links you want coming into your website. And you've got a question, if you've got those links coming on, what don't you know about? In this case, I had a form that was unlocked, right? This will show you, in this case here, there were many, many more, but if you just had a handful of phrases up the top here, then your anchor text is too highly targeted on phrases that looks very unnatural. And then your deep links. How does your deep link ratio look? In most cases, I would say that this is a bad deep link ratio, right? Unless you're a viral service, you only have a few pages and it spreads naturally, right? That's a bad ratio. Because if you're an e-commerce site, you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of pages that are relevant for links. Now, this isn't using PageRank, this is using a different factor in this case here. And you've got to look at it just as a gross picture. I don't find it the most accurate, I prefer PageRank myself. But would you rather have this one up here, or this one down here? Now, I know that this isn't right, that's not a PageRank 7 in this case here. But if you've got all of your links coming from one type, then it looks very bad. Typically, you should expect to see a nice bell curve starting from 1 or 0, all the way down to your high page rank. And in fact, if you get like this, that person's probably been buying links. It's also another flag that you can point out. And then removing the poor quality links is in step 3. Right? Removing poor quality links in stages, that means you evaluate what is your worst quality to remove straight away. What don't you want anywhere near your site? Evaluate the common trends for link removal. If you've got a trend, meaning it's a article site and there's multiple there, or it's a service you can define is run by one person but multiple sites, then you can leverage your time by having them remove all of them at once. Manual process versus software assist. Sometimes you have to do it manually. You have to get creative. Go to LinkedIn, go to Facebook, find out the owner of the site, see if you can get to them on Twitter, some other way. If it's really important to remove it, that's what you've got to do. Other times you can use software assist. And a DMCA takedown request. I'm not a fan of it. I actually think it's technically an illegal use of a DMCA, but it seems to be a popular thing out there because most webmasters will get a DMCA takedown request and very, very quickly do something, because it comes in a very legal document and it will scare the pants out of most people. And step 4 is to log absolutely everything. Every activity you do. If you even think of removing a link, put it down as strategy or plan. Right? This is from Google directly in one of the cases that we've helped with. We know that perhaps not every link, and I love their language, it's very generalistic in everything they do. We know perhaps not every link can be cleaned up, but in order to deem a reconsideration request as successful, that doesn't mean you get your rankings back, just a successful reconsideration request. We need to see a substantial good faith, again a very generalistic term, effort to remove the links. And this effort should result in a decrease in the number of bad links that we see, right, based off webmaster tools and all the links they can see in there. You might consider reaching out to webmasters, yada, 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 etc. Log everything, right, because they want a good faith effort. They understand you can't remove it all, and that's why I say do it in phases. You don't want to remove every single link from your site, but you want to start with the worst quality. And I do it in phases personally because I'll hand that to them, and sometimes you'll have to go through 3 or 4 or even 5 requests. It might take you 3 months to do it, right? But you'll get to a point where they'll have enough of you, and they'll have enough of you replying to them, right, that they'll take the action that they need to. And typically the result that comes back and says, we have taken manual action on your site. It's along those workings. It doesn't say you get your rankings back. It will say expect that within the next algorithm update that can take 1 week, 3 weeks, whatever they happen to say on the time, right, that you'll see a change in your site. Step 5 is then to actually report it. Report it back to Google, list your activities, and monitor your email. You don't get a reply to your webmaster tools. By the way, it's very handy again, like Dijon said, to have your webmaster tools on your site so you can actually get these warnings. The notification that replies back from them though will come directly to the email associated to that account, not to your webmaster tools panel. Okay? The first reply will take them about 3 weeks to get to you once you put in a reconsideration request. After that, I've had replies in as little as 4 hours, and they can be very quick after that. Step 6, repeat or exit. Once you get to the point where they say we can't help you anymore, which is pretty much what it is, then you're finished. Otherwise you keep going. It really is that simple. If you're in software development, it's just an iterative process. Keep going until you satisfy Google with whatever their good faith requirements are. My favourite tools for doing it are Cognitive SEO. It's a new one that I've been using. Before that was Majestic SEO, which I still use very, very heavily. And things that I'm testing out at the moment, the one that we're testing right now is rmove.com. That's for the automated link removal management. That will help you in contacting webmasters automatically based off their WHOIS information. And it will also track off webmaster tools. So it will pull from webmaster tools the links that Google found, and it will mark them off in there once it's removed. So once it's got a reply removed. Now, I use that as my primary function because Google have all of that data. Majestic SEO gives you a big escape than Google will give you. You assume that Google can see everything, but I would work from the webmaster tools link profiles first and foremost. And then removem.com, which is just another service that we'll test in the near future. And that's it.